Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Beth and I like to read, but if you read my handle differently, you're more than welcome to stay. So I'm going to do my March reading wrap up. I had the busiest reading month I've ever had, and that really comes down to the fact that one, I did a 24-hour readathon and I was able to finish 3 books in one weekend. The other is that I was so sick with COVID, got some bad lungs, and they don't cope with respiratory illnesses. So I had a really rough 3 weeks. My brain was able to cope and focus enough that I was able to get some reading done. So I've been actively tracking my reading on a spreadsheet since 2022. I've had Goodreads since 2017. I had a look back at my kind of monthly reading. I have never had a month where I've read as many pages as I did this month. So I read 5,500 pages. So working with my roughly 50 pages an hour reading pace, I read 110 hours this month. That's insane. That is a lot of time to have spent reading, but I also don't really mind because I had some bangers this month. I'll try and keep it short and punchy, but I do think that there's a couple of my favorites that I will rant about. So if you want to hear about all the books that I read, grab a cup and stick around. So I'm gonna break down my reading into 5 different categories that I read this month. So we'll start off with book club reads. So I'm part of 3 different book clubs, which is too many to be quite frank, but I also don't want to leave any of them. My weekly book club, we read about 150 pages a week, and then we meet up and we talk about it on a Tuesday. We are reading towards the Ball Gowns and Books event, or BABE, which is in just under 2 months now, which is very exciting. So we read Nicole Sanchez's The King's Game, and honestly, I am not going to talk about this because I have nothing good to say. So we were all really interested in reading this. We were told it was a Hades and Persephone retelling, but with kind of Bachelor style vibes, where like there was a competition to find the bride of Hades. Neither of those elements delivered. There was the vaguest hint of Greek mythology that really didn't pay respect to the source material at all. There were 2 scenes that implied the Bachelor style competition. The rest of the book was just frat girls eating dinner and going for dances. When any question was raised, our main character was just told, trust. Don't ask questions, just trust. It was the most boring read. If it was 300 pages shorter, the end of the book was actually quite decent. I think if I didn't have to wander through 3 pages of just dinner and dances, I might have read on to the rest of the series because it was better. It was a 1 star. I didn't like it, and I will not be continuing the series. So my travelling book club, I've talked about it before. 7 of us around Australia, we each picked a book and we will post it every month to each of the women that are there. We annotate it as we read it. As we each kind of go around reading, there'll be more and more notes that are colour coded to each person. Now, I don't have the actual book that I read of this one because I've already posted it on, but we read Good Boy by Elle Kennedy and Serena Bowen. This book is a contemporary romance. It's a contemporary hockey romance. We have Blake, who is an asshole for the whole book, and he's obsessed with our main girl, Jess. The whole like premise, so Jess's brother is getting married to a dude who's on the hockey team, so this guy turns up, he's like the best man of the groom. They had a 1-night stand in the past. They had a good time, but she thinks he's just like the worst, and he's like, no, this girl is it for me. That's pretty much the whole story. I honestly did not like this. I didn't think it was very good. The whole thing is, it's a WAGs novel, so you've got wives and girlfriends, but it's a pun because there's a dog on the cover. Yeah, you don't get a dog in this book until like the very end. It's referenced, but we don't get a dog. Neither of these characters were particularly likable, but Blake was just like awful. I was reflecting actually. I think I've been a bit spoiled for contemporary romance, so anything that is just like mid or subpar, I actually dislike immensely, and I feel like this kind of suffered a bit because of that. However, all of my book club girls also didn't like him. So when we were reading, there was just annotations the whole way through, commenting on every, like nitpicking every little action. As much as I didn't like the book, the experience of reading it was actually one of my favourite experiences this month. So I ended up giving it 2 stars. The 2 stars was not for the book, but for the experience of reading it. The last book club read was The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. I ended up vlogging this one, so I'm not going to talk super intensely over this one. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I thought it was like a solid fantasy read, but I feel like this book was really setting up for more action to happen in book 2. And there was a insta-love moment towards the end of the book, and I really did not, like, I don't like insta-love. If there is a romance plot, we need to know why they feel that way for each other. We were on the way there. Like the love factor, saying that you would die for a person, didn't need to happen in this book. And I feel like if that didn't happen, I probably would have bumped this up to a 4-star. Like, I was a little disappointed in the Insta-Love section, but I also thought that this was a really good pick. Really enjoyed reading it. So I only read one audiobook this month, which was Dreamgirl Drama by Tessa Bailey. Sadly, this one was not for me. Like, I love Tessa Bailey's books. It's one of those like safe reads. Like, I can pick up a Tessa Bailey book, a fair amount of confidence that I will just have like a good time. Probably not going to remember the stories that intensely, but I know I'm going to have a good time and I'm going to feel good having read it. This is a romance between a hockey player who we've met. So this is a series about like athletes. So we've met the hockey player in previous book. He's a bit of a grump. It was like a country club event. Like, he had to go for like promotional purposes for the hockey club. So he ends up meeting our main girl in that. Now, she's someone who's come from like a really wealthy family and she's a harp player. They end up having this like amazing night together. The whole introduction to this book was actually really good. I really loved the setup. I loved the way that they interacted. I thought they had an incredible chemistry. She doesn't want her life to be dictated by the wealth that her mother possesses, so she agrees to leave to go to Boston with the hockey player, not to live together, they'll live separately. Great setup. Like, that was amazing. I really enjoyed it. I just hated both of these characters pretty much as soon as that happened. As soon as they left for Boston, they both just became the most insufferable people. So there was obviously an attraction between the two of them, but it was that insta-love kind of feeling. So he was just like, nah, this woman's it for me. But it never really told us why. You can like have an attraction to someone and grip onto them, but you need to tell us why. Like, there was no reason for this woman to be like it for him, and that really bothered me. So a bit of context. So she went to like rent a house. He went, this is like not good enough for my princess. Found another house that was like safer and in a better area, but was significantly more expensive and out of her price range. So he was like, it's fine, I'll pay for the extra rent. It's payday. It's time to like pay the rent. He gives her the money to pay the rent. What does she do with it? It's not going to be paying the rent, is it? She's going to spend it all on like multiple eye creams, because you can't just pick one. You can't just pick one eye cream. You have to have multiples. And just as someone who's had to work so hard for all the things that like I have now, it just shit me off. And like, yeah, it makes sense for the character, but like, I just felt like so disrespected by this character, and pretty much from that moment on, I could not stand her. I feel like making characters dislikable can work for a purpose, particularly in a romance. You can have a redemption arc. Neither of them really had the redemption arc. They were just idiots, but they banged really good. The spice was really fun in this one, so that's that. I gave it 2 stars because it was okay. I didn't actively dislike it, but I didn't love it. And that was and it was really disappointing because I was really excited. I've really enjoyed this series. I think I've rated both the previous ones 5 stars, but I've already pre-ordered the next one. Here's hoping that Picture Perfect will be a better book for me. I also read A Soul to Guide. Again, not going to talk in depth about this one because I already have a vlog on the channel. I really enjoyed this one. It is so cool that like every book in this series I have latched onto and loved, and they're so unique. And for a concept that like really is formulaic and has beats, to have such individual unique stories between each of these coupled pairings, as well as an overarching larger story, that is really an incredible thing to do. I'm going to be getting the last 3 books in this series when I head to Babe later this year. The Duskwalker series basically follows, we have this family of Duskwalkers. These monsters, they've got like big monstrous bodies and they've got like skulls and horns and stuff. They crave flesh to eat flesh, but if they find like a person to love, they are able to consume their soul, and that will like satiate that hunger. So each book is a story of the romance of like for each of the Duskwalkers and their brides. So in this one we got to meet Merrick, who's the oldest and the crinkiest Duskwalker, and Raywin, who is a blind elf. So she's not from the same realm. She ends up, for reasons, getting trapped. It's about their relationship and their love story, and I really liked how it evolved from just a relationship between 2 people to that genuine feeling and emotion and romance. It was just a really good plot. I enjoyed reading it. Gave this one 4 stars. Then I did my 24-hour readathon partway through the month. So I finished Aftershocks in the Ice Planet Barbarians series. And then again, I'm not going to talk in depthly about any of the ones that I read here because I did talk about them all in my vlog that I made. So we had Aftershocks in the Ice Planet Barbarians series. Gave that one 4 stars. I think it's my favourite novella that I've read in that whole series to date. Given the stuff that had happened at the end of book 7, I feel like it was really good to be able to go back to previous romances, to previous characters, and to see how the effects of this big event changed and altered not just the characters' perspectives who we saw in book 7, but some of the other characters there as well. So going back to Vektal as the leader of the tribe was really amazing, and then going back to Harlow and Rook as well, particularly for Rook, who's someone who's got kind of limited communication and trust issues. It was really short, really quick and easy read. I kind of wish it was longer because I really enjoyed it. Then I finished A Court This Cruel and Lovely. Utterly loved this. I don't know what was in these pages. I was completely obsessed with this series. So we've basically got Prisca is a human. The humans in this world do have magic, but when they're like kids, it's given as like a sacrifice to the gods, and then when they come of age they go through like a ceremony where they're given a fraction of that magic back. Prisca, however, didn't give that magic away. She's one of the cursed people, and she has to kind of hide the fact that she has magic for fear of death. She ends up being discovered and has to go on the run. She ends up meeting a group of mercenaries, and that's where the story really kicks off. This was a 5-star read, and maybe it is to do with the fact that I read the whole book in one go, but the way that the plot was crafted, like every chapter is really moving the story forward, and I like the way that it was hinting at relationships to come in the future. Whilst this is a book that is, you know, reading towards babe, it was something that I genuinely wanted to read and I genuinely loved, and it kind of ignited that spark of the love of reading for me again. And then we finished up with Phantasma. This is really cool. It's kind of set in New Orleans. It's very moody, very gothic vibes. Ophelia is our main character. Her mother has passed away and they've kind of encountered some financial troubles. Her sister is like, don't worry guys, I got it, and just like disappears. So Ophelia believes that she's entered this competition, the Phantasma Games, where there is a financial prize. It's very secretive though. Nobody really knows much about it. So she ends up entering the games to try and find her sister. And so the whole book you get to watch her compete in these various different trials, like really fun, creative challenges. There are a whole bunch of different creatures in this, different like spectral, like you've got ghosts, you've got phantom, like a whole bunch of different things in here. So we know that I love a magical creature, and the love story that was played out in this I thought was really fun, with a good twist at the end. I think you could pick it. I didn't, and I loved it. This is the first time I've read an audiobook and a physical book together at the same time, and I really enjoyed the experience, and I can see myself doing that again in the future. At this point in the month is where COVID hit. I couldn't really do too much, so I ended up throwing myself head over heels into my first series binge of The Kingdom of Lies. So obviously already read book 1 in the 24-hour readathon, but just went back to back to back reading the rest of this series. I adored this series. I loved the way that it changed and grew throughout the books. And like, I'm not going to talk too much about it because if I do go into any details, there are spoilers that will be discussed. And I've got a vlog that will be posted shortly where I'll talk a bit more in depth about my feelings. But I loved this series. I loved the characters. I loved the way that the magic worked. I loved the wider politics that were being discussed. I enjoyed the plot, how it continued to move fast-paced throughout the series. 5 stars. The second book I gave 4 stars because it was a little bit slower paced, but I do think it was really good. I just struggled with the pacing a little bit in the first half of the book. Like, I absolutely love this, and I'm so glad that I read this series. I'm really fortunate I'm going to get to meet Stacia in a couple of months because she is coming to Babe. There is a spin-off of this series coming out with one of the characters, so pre-ordered it and I'm really excited to get started on that one. This was phenomenal, and I really enjoyed the experience of reading the series back to back. As we know from my previous video, we know that I've got 28 series that I'm currently in the middle of, and it's because I haven't dedicated myself to reading a series in completion, and it's something I want to change. It's something I don't like about my own reading habits. So being able to be with these characters in this world for one chunk of time, I really enjoyed that, and I want to keep doing that more. Starting with my last book for the month, which is Lady of Darkness. So very similarly to A Court This Cruel and Lovely, this was a book that was already on my TBR, and I ended up finding out that the author was coming to Babe. So immediately added it to my TBR, and this was my favourite book that I read in March. So this follows Scarlett. Scarlett is like an assassin from a not so nice part of town. For reasons that we don't find out at the start of the book, she is basically living the life of an elite. So her whole life is like dinners and dresses. And I found that really cool, that juxtaposition between the assassin and the lady of the court, and a bit of the identity crisis that she experiences, you know, wanting to be the warrior but having to be the demure female. I loved every single one of the characters in this, every single one of them. I loved the way the plot moved, the plot developed. I loved how people's choices had consequences, both good and bad. So there are technically 2 love interests, but there's a line where we meet one of them and it's like he tucked a dark lock of hair behind his ear, and I was like, no, that's him. That's Endgame. He's Endgame right there. Having now read book 2 since this, I'm right. I was right. It's hard to talk about this one without kind of giving away spoilers. I like the magical creatures, I like the magic, I like the politics, and I like that this book 1 was a really good setup, and I can totally see that this series can grow in a number of different ways. And with characters who are quite complex, people make choices that they don't want to make, people go through experiences that have long-term effects on them, and the way that their relationships have grown in the past off page and continue to develop on page. I just loved everything about this one, and I'm currently in a bit of a crisis because I've just finished book 2 and all I want to do is read book 3, but because of time restraints I have to go on to a different book club, and it's kind of killing me inside a little bit. But with that being said, I've yapped your ear off for long enough. These are the 12 books that I read this month. My average for the month was brought down by a couple of poor reads. However, I actually had a really good month of reading this month. Busiest month I've ever had reading. Don't think this will happen anytime again in the future. Feeling pretty lucky to consume this many pages in a single month. If you like hanging out with me while I talk about books, you should subscribe, because that's pretty much all I do on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.